2021 was one of the worst years ever for me personally, but simultaneously one of the best, mostly due to all of you guys supporting me and helping my channel to grow. In 2020, the myriad of great new games like The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Paper Mario The Origami King, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Astro's Playroom, and many more all kept us entertained through the raging pandemic. Yet in 2021, we began to see the toll of said pandemic on the game industry. In 2020, many games still released on time due to the fact that they had most of their development finished by then and could get that last push out the door in spite of COVID. But with the 1-year anniversary of the virus, it seemed many games that were less far along in their creation slowed to a crawl due to how they couldn't get massive parts of development done during the lockdowns. This meant that 2021 was much slower in terms of releases than previous years, and is one of the more disappointing years out there. Games we thought that we'd for sure be getting in 2021, like God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, and the Breath of the Wild sequel, ended up being pushed to 2022, and the Game of the Year award at the real Game Awards show, the TGBs, ended up going to Metroid Dread, which is a game I have literally zero interest in. This goes to show how slow the year was, but there were still some games that stuck out, so I'll be going over each of the big 3 game publishers' major releases and general performances for the year 2021, starting with PlayStation. PlayStation absolutely dominated the gaming space in 2020 with many hit games and a great new console launch with tons of awesome new games that showed off the hardware very well. And with me giving them a 5 out of 5 for 2020, you bet my expectations for 2021 were a bit lower, with me knowing that they needed the chance to cool down until a big 2022. And that's pretty much exactly what happened. But they still did release quite a lot of stuff, so let's check it out. In February, we got the first major PlayStation exclusive game, Destruction All-Stars. I've reviewed that game and must say it's not too great and I didn't enjoy it all too much. But it did have some really neat ideas. It was an admirable first attempt, but not much more, and certainly not a very replayable game for me at least. It's by no means bad, just a bit of a letdown. April, however, gave us the release of Oddworld, Soulstorm, and Returnal. I haven't played either of these, but Oddworld looks incredibly unique and interesting, and Returnal, oh boy. Returnal is a game that I want so badly to try, but also really don't want to try. It looks like one of the coolest and probably best games of 2021, but also will probably kick my butt. It seems really fun and cool, but I might not want to buy it for full price if it's going to be so hard that I can't even beat it, you know? May didn't really have any large games releasing for PlayStation exclusively. Of course, Resident Evil 8 came out, but that was multi-platform. The month that really mattered was June. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart came out and totally blew me away, with it being one of the best games, if not the best, of the whole year. I loved it so much and it really pushed PlayStation forward, with this game truly showing off the PS5's power. E3 also happened around this time and was complete garbage, but PlayStation refused to participate, so not much to talk about there. In August, PlayStation released the new Director's Cut of Ghost of Tsushima with the brand new Iki Island expansion. I like Ghost of Tsushima, and since this expansion is apparently massive, I might just check it out because I actually sold my original copy, and if I was going to play it again, I'd need a brand new one, so this works out. September was by far the biggest month for them though, with 3 large game releases. Death Stranding Director's Cut came out, which I'm not even going to comment on that. Deathloop was also released, and I must say I had a total blast with that game, and I did not expect it to be as far up my alley as it really was. And I am hoping for the same pleasant surprise with Returnal once I try that out. I'll review that game soon enough, but for now, just know it was really fun. Kena Bridge of Spirits was also a notable release, with some of the best visuals I have ever seen, and some amazing gameplay. I'll also review that game eventually, and though I haven't actually beaten it due to the inconvenient time that it was released at, I really have liked it so far, and it winning Indie Game of the Year feels very much deserved. Now, of course, these games are only temporary exclusives, but nevertheless major releases. Solar Ash came out in December, and I really want to try that out too. But the final major thing that we need to talk about is the PlayStation Showcase from September 2021. We got amazing showcases throughout the year, specifically the Horizon Forbidden West one that was basically just the coolest thing ever, but the major one for the year was in September. The first major part of the show revealed a remake of the famous and beloved Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which will be a full exclusive for PS5. This is a really big deal. I've wanted to try KOTOR for the longest time now, but this remake might just be the best way to experience it. And seeing an exclusive Star Wars game is very exciting. I hope Sony holds the devs of this game to the same standard that they hold their studios to. We also have Quantic Dream making their next game, Star Wars Eclipse, but I'm not sure if that's exclusive. A new look at Forspoken has me really interested in that game, and then we got a lot of stuff that I didn't care about. Deathloop got a great story trailer, Alan Wake was announced to get a remaster, Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy announced to get a PC and PS5 upgrade, and a look at Gran Turismo 7 pushed us into the big finale. For the final announcements, Sony decided to be absolutely insane. Spider-Man 2, a full sequel to the masterful PS4 game by Insomniac, got its first look, and it looks phenomenal. It was also revealed that Insomniac is making a Wolverine game, and God of War Ragnarok got one of the greatest trailers I have ever seen that now has me very invested in the game. It was quite the show, and while not as good as the mind-blowing PS5 showcase from June of last year, it was still fantastic and really showed me how obsolete E3 truly is. Sony didn't do as well this year as last year, but it was damn close, and they truly did have some phenomenal titles. I do think this year was hurt by the delay of Horizon Forbidden West, but nevertheless, PlayStation made the best of the terrible situation and delivered a great catalog of games. I give Sony a 4.5 out of 5. Truly an amazing job.
In moments of crisis, panic does nothing. Harness it. Let it serve you.
We now move to Nintendo, the people who had an incredibly disappointing 2020 with only 2 amazing games and some of the most evil anti-consumer bullcrap imaginable to really let me down after their phenomenal 2019. But in 2021, I was sure they could redeem themselves. This year, they did tone down the evil moves sometimes, and I'll give them credit for that. But the rest? Oh boy. In February, they released the port of Super Mario 3D World, an already amazing game, but with a brand new mode included called Bowser's Fury. This was truly an amazing release, and I loved every second of it. I loved replaying one of my favorite Mario games, and I loved playing through this brand new, incredibly ambitious experience. It wasn't really a new game, but it's one of Nintendo's best ports, and if it was a full game, I'd be on the hype train from day one. They also released Bravely Default 2, and yeah, no one cares. In March, we saw the release of Monster Hunter Rise, which I've heard a lot of good stuff about, and it certainly looks quite good, so yeah, another solid release. New Pokemon Snap was released in April, and while it looks great, it released for full price, and this does not seem like it has enough content at all to warrant that price, so I passed on it for now at least. While Sony dominated the month of June with the Game of the Year contender Rift Apart, Nintendo released Game Builder Garage, a game that looks like Dreams, but far less complicated. So it's not the most original thing, but it does look pretty cool at least. Okay, I know I'm really trying to find something to grasp onto, but the truth is that Nintendo really screwed up during the summer. Mario Golf and a $60 Wii port were their only titles. And what's worse is that not only did they charge $60 for Golf and for a Wii port, but for a port of an absolutely terrible Wii game. Yeah, that's right, I'm a Skyward Sword hater. I think the game is boring, uninteresting, tedious, and way too slow. And even if you like the game, you must admit that this is a complete ripoff and a very lazy release for the anniversary of one of the most iconic series in the history of gaming. In August, we got No More Heroes 3, which actually looks really interesting, but in September, Nintendo graced us with a genius that is WarioWare. Just kidding, I haven't played it. But in October, we got the release of a new Mario Party that's supposed to be surprisingly decent because they just recycled content from the last games and had zero originality. As well as a new 2D Metroid Dread. Dread is a game I truly don't care about in the slightest, and I really don't want to play it after trying the demo and finding it confusing, annoying, and far too difficult, which is why I never play Metroid games in the first place. But I'm happy for Metroid fans, and this was a shocking move on Nintendo's part. This is not a game I will pay much money for at all, but one that I'm glad exists regardless. After this, though, Nintendo didn't release anything else, which is quite disappointing. And as for their E3 showcase, it was actually pretty good. Many of the games that came in September and October were announced during it, and they gave us a great trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, so I'll give it a 3.5 just for that. Overall, though, this year was really a letdown. In 2020, we had 2 great games for Nintendo, and this year, only one, which was a port of an 8-year-old game with a 3-hour expansion, mind you. So I'm being incredibly generous with this score, but I'll give them just barely a 2.5 out of 5. Not the worst ever, but really not good and very disappointing, and I'm really resisting the urge to knock it down to a 2 just for the absolutely mind-frying Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. This is a complete joke, just like last year, and not a funny joke, one that's just sad to hear because of how unfunny it is. It's just a sad joke, because you don't want it to be a joke. And Xbox has been a ridiculous laughingstock for many years now, and this year was unfortunately and unsurprisingly no exception. We had the most overrated E3 show ever made, with so many forgettable cinematic trailers that I honestly think none of these games even exist, and they just exist to fill the time slot of the E3 showcase. It's a conspiracy, guys, trust me. Even Starfield, pretty much the only Xbox exclusive set to come out in 2022 that anyone gives a crap about, got only a cinematic trailer with almost nothing to it. It's meant to come out in November, and yet we know almost nothing about this new IP that looks very generic. That's concerning, to say the least. Forza Horizon 5 came out and looks beautiful and quite fun, but Forza games come out pretty much every year, and it's really not like this is too interesting of a game, but the game Microsoft really banked on was Halo Infinite. That's right. It finally came out, and it's pretty good. At least it's not trash. Halo Infinite is supposed to have really good multiplayer and fun gameplay that does a good job of regressing to Halo 3 and then adding a grapple hook and open world, because Halo 4 and 5 may have added new ideas, but they were terrible and those games don't exist, am I right, guys? It seems like quite the back-to-basics approach, and while the gameplay looks very solid, I hear the story is really bad, and that there's almost no innovation to be found, which is quite irritating for a game with this many delays and such a long development time, with it also being rumored to be the most expensive game ever made in terms of budget. But at least it didn't end up like Cyberpunk. It looks fun and all, but this is not enough to make up for Microsoft's once again abysmal showing in 2021. They had almost no games and almost no announcements that gave us real, tangible information on what they are and why we should even care. Xbox should really realize that they're on the way out and no one really likes them anymore, but they can't take one solid look at themselves in the mirror and commit to truly improving. It wasn't the worst year, but not much of an upgrade and really lackluster. And yes, Redfall is coming and it looks just like my type of game, but we got a cinematic trailer for it and the current date is summer 2022. Meaning it will certainly not be coming in 2022. Remember Crackdown 3? Yeah, that's what I thought. 1 out of 5. Jesus Christ, this sucked. Well, in the end, 2021 was a pretty crappy year for a lot of people, including me sometimes. 2021 had some really big disappointments and tough times for people, and the gaming industry struggled too, but some games shined through nevertheless, and those are the strongest kinds of games. If a piece of media can push through a tough time and still be amazing, then you know it's something special. So let's appreciate what we did experience in 2021 and what poked through and remained positive for us, and forget about everything that dragged us down. Whether that be a hardship in your own life or the fact that Skyward Sword HD is a ripoff. I wish you all a great 2022, and here's to hoping that every game to come this year is amazing.